Hi, welcome to today's class. So today we're going to continue strengthening through those lower tummy muscles into those deep abdominals, and also working on our balance and our mobility through our spine, so trying to increase that movement through our rotation. So if you make sure that you've either got a towel that you can use, a small towel, or you've got a cushion that we can use for when we're lying on our side, just to protect our neck. And we're going to start then with our warm-up. So if you're stood with your feet roughly hip width apart and knees slightly bent and shoulders relaxed. So we're going to make sure that our feet are underneath our hips, our knees are slightly bent. And we're just going to start by rolling towards our toes and then coming back towards our heels. So take it nice and gently, trying to keep those knees fairly soft so we're not locking them out. So if I turn side on, coming towards our toes and then coming back. So you can very gently just lift those toes up. And as you get used to that balance, you can then start taking it a little bit further. So you can move further up into those toes you'll be able to. Remember, keep a little bend in those knees and then lowering back down again. Shoulders nice and relaxed, heads up nice and tall. So imagine our head's that balloon full of helium, lifting up and lengthening all the way through our back. As we're doing this, we're just going to start building in our breathing. So just taking a nice deep breath in, breathing into the rib cage, and then breathing out to lower back down again. So we'll do 3 more. Last 2. And last 1. So we're going to find even pressure between the front and backs of our feet. Knees are slightly bent, and we're going to work into our pelvis. So imagine our pelvis is that bucket full of water. So from here we're going to tip a little bit of water out the front, so we get that arch into our back, and then we're going to tip a little bit of water out the back. So we're lengthening through our tailbone, drawing those 3 muscles in, really trying to tilt that pelvis back towards us. So going forwards again, arching into the back, and then going the other way. So depending where your stiffness is, if you've got any in your back, you might find it's tight one way or the other. Today I'm feeling it as I'm arching my back just across here, just stretching. As we're doing it, keeping that little bend in the knees. So what we're trying to do is keep the knees the same, so flexing them, so we're not bobbing up and down with those knees. So just try and keep ourselves nice and level, heads and shoulders staying at the same height, and all the movements just coming from here. And then we're going to look to find the middle. So the middle of the 2 extremes, and then we can hold ourselves there. So tightening very gently through those lower tummy muscles. Shoulders are then relaxed, and we're going to go into our shoulder roll. So bring those shoulders around to the front, all the way up to our ears, and then bringing those shoulder blades back together. Breathing in as we're bringing those shoulders up and out to sink back down again. Try and bring those shoulder blades back together and then down and back. Imagine them gliding down into the back pockets of our trousers. Again, nice deep breathing. Kind of breathe into our rib cage, so feel our rib cage stretching out to the side. Do another 2. And last 1. So we're letting those shoulders sit back. So we've got that length through our collarbone, and we're going to continue working to the shoulders. So if we bring our hands up, keeping our elbows tucked in, take a nice deep breath in. Now we're going to, as we move our arms, imagine we've got springs on between our ribcage and pelvis. So we want to try and keep them the same so our back doesn't lift and arch up. So our elbows are tucked in, deep breath in. Breathing out, taking those hands up to side, keeping those elbows into our waist, and then breathing back into the front. So taking it nice and steady. So if you find that your elbows are coming out, you can always put a rolled up towel just underneath the inside of the arms. So we know that if we drop the towel, arms are moving away. So as we're taking the hands out, we're feeling the shoulder blades squeezing together, feeling a stretch through the inside or front of our shoulder, and then coming forwards again. And then if we start to take it a little bit further, so this time, first part's all the same, and then we're going to reach out to those walls on either side of us, and then we're going to come back in elbows first, keeping the palms facing up and out, and then coming back through to the front. So breathing out as we're stretching those arms away, and breathing back in as we're coming back in. We'll do another 3. 2 to go. And then our last one. And coming back in and lowering back down. So we've been working on the shoulders. Just a last bit to try and get those arms coming up. Again, we've got the springs on between the ribcage and pelvis. So as we float those arms up, we're making sure the back's not arching. We're trying to keep our back up nice and straight. Shoulders down away from our ears, so we've got the length all the way through here, and then coming back down again. So roll the shoulder blades back, bring those shoulder blades into that V shape at the back. Keeping those muscles on, we're going to gently float those arms up, and then breathing back in as we're lowering back down. So all the time you're feeling that little pinch between the shoulder blades here. If we let those go, we'll be able to reach much higher. But what we want to try and do is try and keep those shoulder blades down so those postural muscles are working. And then we're getting that stretch into the shoulders. So we're working more to strengthen the shoulders rather than moving through the back. So try and keep the arms fairly straight so we've not got a bend in the elbow. Again, you might find that then means that you're not able to go quite so far. Doing another 3. 2. And last one. And then we're coming down, just resting those arms down. Now we're going to work a little bit more through your balance and strength through our legs with our walking series. So just checking we've still got a neutral pelvis. Lower tummy muscles are very gently drawn on. We're going to keep those hips nice and level. So you can imagine a spirit level across the front of our hips here. So keeping ourselves in the middle, what we're going to try and do, we're going to very gently just bring one knee up. So we're coming up onto our heel and onto our forefoot, one foot. And then coming back down and then changing over to the other side. So we're breathing out to come up and in to lower back down. So keep that control all the way through. And what we want is keeping our midline going down through the middle of our feet. So we're keeping our core on to try and keep ourselves stable. And gently just moving through those legs. So we're trying to avoid kind of shifting our weight across from one side to the other. Keeping the shoulders relaxed, heads up nice and tall again. So we're doing a 3, 2 to go. And the last one. And then we're back down. Now we're going to try and take it up a level. So what we're going to do, we're going to try and move both legs together. What we're going to do though is as one leg comes down, the other one comes up. So if you bring one knee up, so we're turn side on so you can see, keeping our tummy muscles arm back nice and straight. As we're lowering down this leg now, we're going to try and change legs over. So from our hip upwards, we're almost floating. So we're trying not to bob up and down and be in a kind of bouncy movement. So using our core again, keeping those foundations nice and still and slowly changing legs over. So we're breathing in as we're changing over once and out as we change over the next time. Keeping that control. So again, we're keeping ourselves all the way down through that centre line. Trying not to shift across from one side to the other. Shoulders relaxed, heads nice and tall. always protecting our back and our spine, so we want to try and keep ourselves up nice and straight. So the stronger we work or the more we work those deeper core muscles, the stronger it will be. So we're not working through the back so much. Spine's much more protected. So we'll do another 3, 2, last one, and then bring that last heel down. So we're going to just do last bit. If at any point you're finding it's too much for the balance, come back down and you can just work one leg at a time. Now, if you wanted to then take it further, we're going to add in our arms. So doing the same thing with our legs. So we're going to bring one leg up, we're going to hit the opposite arm forwards, and then we're going to change over. So this is our walking series, keeping ourselves balanced in the middle of our centre line, so our weight's not shifting from one side to the other. Now if anybody wants to work a little bit harder, we can speed it up. Again, if you want to just drop down to work one leg. That's 2, 1, and then lower back down. Okay, so now we're on the floor, we're going to go into some side laying exercises. So either need a towel or a cushion just to be able to support our head. So when we're using the pillow, because we're going to have our bottom arm up above our head, we can then use the towel just to keep our head in line with our spine. So have a little bit of a fold, so it's only about so thick. So we're going to start with our climb exercise. So we want our knees bent up. Turn this and have this way, just so you can see where my legs are. So I've got my knees bent up. I'm going to lie with my bottom arm underneath and the other hand on top. Now, if you struggle to get this arm up, you can always use something a little bit thicker. But just need to make sure that it's at the right height to keep your head in line with your spine. So we're going to start with our climb exercise. So we're going to be working to the top hip. So what I want you to do first is make sure that ankles, hips and shoulders are in a straight line. So you can lift at the ankles, having a quick check over the top, making sure we're all lined up. Lowering back down. Then what we want to do is make sure the hips are on top of each other. So one thing to do, check kind of going forwards and backwards. If we look down at our knees, we should have those knees lined up on top of each other. So then we know that the hips are on top of each other here. And then also just making sure that our spine's not collapsing down to the floor. So if we just very gently lengthen that top hip away. So again, we should have a little peek up underneath our back, as we would do when we're lying on our back. So climb exercise, we keep our feet together, hips on top of each other. So we've got those lower tummy muscles gently drawn up, and we're going to lift that top knee up, getting that squeeze into our hip, and then lower back down again. So feet are staying together, hips are staying still, so we're still working through our core to try and control it, and then gently coming up and then lower back down. So as I said, feeling into the back of the hip, what we're trying to avoid is that hip all rolling backwards. So it's not how far we can get the hip up, it's just keeping that control around the hips to get nice and steady. So with our breathing, we're breathing out as we come up and then in to lower back down again. So we're going to do another 5. Should be feeling getting tied into the bum cheek now. 4, 3, last 2, and the last one. Now we're going to stay working to this top leg, but we're going to work a bit more through the outside of our leg. So we're going to straighten that top leg down now.
So that leg's going all the way down toward that bottom wall. So again, imagine you've got a T-shape, so between the front of the hips and then coming down our spine. So we're keeping that little gap underneath our waist. What we're going to do, we're going to lift that leg up and we're reaching away, so we get that muscles working to the outside of our leg and then back down again. So again, the hips are staying on top of each other. So we're keeping the length between our ribcage and our hip. So again, with this one, what we're trying not to do is let the hip lift up. So we're not trying to move from here. We're trying to keep that length here, and then you'll really get that squeeze into the hip at the top. So just keep that leg lengthening away from you. Do another 4, 3, 2, and last one. Then we can bend that leg on top, just give that top bum cheek a little bit of a rub, just get the circulation back in there. So we're going to now go into our arm opening, so we're working into our spine. So we need to free up our bottom arm. So you can either roll this towel up thicker, or you can use your cushion. So again, just making sure that our neck's in line with our spine. Hips are staying forward, so this time we're going to imagine the knees are super glued together. Arms are then out in front. What we're going to do, we're going to imagine we're in concrete from the hips downwards. So arms are out in front, we're going to take a nice deep breath in. As we're breathing out, we're going to take that top arm up to the ceiling, follow it with our head, and then we're going to gently roll back from our rib cage. So you can see the hips are staying nice and still, get that stretch from your upper side into our shoulder and down our arm. And then we're going to reach back up to the ceiling, bringing those shoulders back on top and hands back together. So we're breathing out on that big arch over the top. And then breathe back in to come back. So just keep that control all the way around. So I really like this exercise because after about 4 or 5 you feel like you're able to get further around, so it loosens up really quickly. So we'll do 3 more. Last 2. Keep those knees pressed together. And the last one. And then reaching back and back through to the front. So this time we're going to go into arm circles, so taking our top arm. This time we're going to go up and above our head, arms around and behind us. Then we're coming back by our hip and back through to the front. So a nice big circle as we're going all the way around, breathing out in that semicircle away. And breathe back in then as we're coming back up. So again, we're still staying from our hips downwards. And we're getting that rotation through the spine, through the shoulder. So we'll do another 4. 3 to go. Make sure we're turning our head behind us. Last 2. And our last one. And we're back through to the front. So we're going to change sides over, so if we gently push ourselves up. So again, bottom arm underneath our head, or if we're unable to get the arm up, then we just use the thicker cushion. So knees are bent up, lying ourselves down, so we've got that bottom arm above our head, making sure our head's in line with our spine. And we're going to line up our shoulders, hips and ankles. So lift our ankles up, we can have a quick check over the top, make sure we're all lined up, lowering back down. Then you can see from this angle that my hips aren't lined up because my knees are angling backwards. So if I push that top knee forwards, that means that we're going to have our hips on top of each other when our knees are lined up here. And then just drawing that top hip down so we've got that little gap underneath our waist. So lower tummy muscles on to keep ourselves still from the hips downwards. So imagine you've got a pole almost down between those two hips. What we're going to do, if lower tummy muscles are drawn on, we're going to very gently just bring that top knee up and then lower back down. So keeping that control. Breathing out as we're coming up and then in to lower back down. So as I mentioned, you can see the hips are staying nicely stacked on top of each other. So what we're trying to avoid is as we're coming back, the hips are rolling backwards. So you've got that wall behind the hips, just stopping the hips rolling back. Doing another 4, 3, our last 2, and final 1. Then if we straighten the top leg out, so it's going all the way down to the bottom wall, hips are still on top of each other. So this time imagine you've got a T-shape with the spine and then across the front of the hips. So we're going to lift that low upper leg up, working to the outside of our thigh, and then lower back down again. So we're reaching the hip down and away from us, keep that length between our ribcage and our pelvis. So you're going to feel it working to the outside of the thigh, and then just at the top you're going to feel it pinching into the bum cheek again, just working those muscles into the outside of the hip. So we'll do another 3, 2 to go, and our last one. And then we'll bend that knee back on top. So we're going to work through our spine now with our arm openings. So again, if we get our thicker cushion, so we're freeing up our bottom arm, we're going to have our arms then stretched out in front. So just checking those knees are still lined up on top of each other. Lower tummy muscles on to keep the hips facing forwards. But the arms then out in front, and we're going to start with the top arm. We're going to float it up to the ceiling, looking up to that arm and then rolling backwards nice and gently. So get that stretch coming up from our hip into our side, into our chest, shoulder, and down our arm. And then we're going to reach back up to the ceiling, bring those shoulders back on top of each other and hands back together. So just take your time, nice and steady as you're rolling all the way around. And then breathing back in as we come back through to the front. So imagine you're setting concrete for the hips downwards, keep the knees pressed together. And as I said with the last one, it's just about, with about 4 or 5, you start to feel that you're able to get that little bit further around as those muscles lengthen out. So we'll do another 3. 2 to go. And last one. And all the way back to the front. So the last part in this side lying series, we're going to go into arm circles. So we've got those arms out in front, taking a nice deep breath in and breathe out. We're going to take that top arm, we're coming out over the top of our head, Rolling back so the hips and knees are staying forwards. Reaching all the way around behind, and we're coming back by our hip and back through to the front. So as we're taking our arm over our head, we're running back through the shoulder. And then as we come back by our hip, we're coming back on top. So we'll do another 3. Two to go. And then our final one. And we're back through to the front. Okay, so we're going to come into lying on our backs. So if we have a thin pillow or again a towel just folded over, we can then put that down on our mat. And then we're going to lie ourselves down in the middle of our mat. So we've got the support just underneath the back of our head, just to stop our head or neck hinging and the chin pointing up to the ceiling. So a little tuck off the chin down towards the floor, arms then just resting down by our side. So just take it nice and slowly. Everybody's going to feel the stiffness in a slightly different place. But as we're rolling down away from us, we're feeling our weight going down onto our tailbone and we're feeling our head pulled down the mat. And then as we flatten our back up, we'll feel our head being pushed back up the mat again. Then we're going to look to find our middle. So we're finding a neutral spine, so not quite big enough to get our fingertips underneath, but just imagine a little garden pea. Top, we're not letting that gap extend. So keeping our rib cage down towards our tail, hip bones, and then coming back down again. So breathe out as we go over the top, and then breathe back in as we come back. 2 to go. And last one. And then all the way back, arms back by our side. Now, because we've been keeping these lower tummy muscles on, we're hopefully still in the same position, but if we need to find that pelvic tilt again, just do a little tilt, find that middle, and then lower tummy muscles drawn on. We're going into a single leg stretch, so you can either rest the arms by your side or you can put the hands on the hip. Nice deep breath in. As we're breathing out, then we're going to slide one leg down the mat away from us, just taking our time, just going as far as you can without letting the pelvis roll forward. So keeping that same P gap underneath our back, and then breathing back in as we slide back. And same on the other side, breathing out, sliding down. So if we've got our hands on our hips, we're feeling for any movement. If we start to feel movement in the pelvis, then just stop and then glide back up again. So as we're doing this, we're trying to keep our feet hip width apart. So we've got each foot on the side of a train track and we're sliding it down, and then we're going to follow it back up again. Keeping that control. If we need to reset our pelvis, just check we've still got that P gap underneath our back, and just do that between legs. Then as we're changing legs over, we're still keeping those lower tummy muscles on about 20%. Then glide on the other side. So we'll do 4 more, 2 more on each side. And 3 to go. Last 2. And last one. and then with this time. So same as we did before, think about having springs in between a ribcage and pelvis. And as we take one leg away, we're going to take the opposite arm. So I'm going to take my left leg. As I take my left leg, I'm going to take my right arm. So we're still keeping that P gap underneath our back, and then breathing back in, coming back through to the start, and then onto the other side. Just keeping that control. So 4 more, so 2 more on each side. Try to keep the shoulders down away from our ears. The arms fairly straight. Last 1 on each side now. And then our last one. And then back through to the start. Now we're going to work a little bit more through the inside of our thigh with our hip twist. So you can either have the arms resting by the side or again feeling those hip bones. This time we want to focus on any movement left to right. So we want to try and keep nice and still. Imagine we've got a spirit level across the front of the hips. So deep breath in, and then as we breathe out, we're going to control one knee out to the side, keeping the other knee pointing directly up to the ceiling. And then we're going to bring that knee back up to the ceiling, and then we'll change over onto the other side. So we're keeping that control. Feel the pressure from the back of the pelvis resting on the mat in the middle. So even as we're changing legs over, we're keeping those lower tummy muscles on about 20%. So we'll do 2 more, 1 more on each side. And our last one. And we're back through to the middle. Now we're going to work more strength through here. So we're going to go up into our scissors exercise. This time with our scissors exercise, we are going to give different levels to work at. So what we've done so far with our scissors, we've taken a nice deep breath in, breathing out, we're coming up into one leg, into that tabletop, so right angle at our hip and our knee, and then breathing in as we lower back down. Then we're going to change legs over. So with this one we're alternating, breathing out to come up, and then to come back down. Now if you want to work at level 2, as you're going to lower down one leg, you're going to change the other one over. So I want you to try and keep that back nice and close to the floor. And you're alternating your breathing now, so you're breathing in to change over once and out to change over the next time. If at any point you feel the back arching away and you're struggling to keep it, or any back pain, then drop back down just to work for one side at a time. Keep the shoulders relaxed. Tucking the chin in very gently just to lengthen through the back of the neck. Last 2. And last 1. And then we'll bring those knees up into our chest. Gently just rock those knees from side to side, just opening up into our lower back. Then if we pause in the middle, we're going to keep our left knee tucked in. We're taking our right foot onto the floor. We're going to slide that foot down and away from us. So we're getting that stretch into the front of our right hip. And then we're going to change legs over. So right knee's coming back up, left foot on the floor. and sliding that leg away. And then we're going to bring that leg back up. So we've got both knees tucked into our chest. Taking a nice deep breath in and breathing out. We're going to lower each foot back down onto the mat. Now we're going to go into our bridge exercise. So we take our head block out for our towel. So we're going to bring our heels a little bit closer up towards our bum now. We're going to work from that pelvic tilt movement. We're going to work all the way up through our spine. So almost opposite to our roll down exercise. Arms relaxed. Just try and rest the arms by our side, shoulders touching the floor. So we're just going to start with our pelvic tilt movement. So we're going to flutter back down. So we're tightening across here and then lower back down again. Then we're going to start to take it a little bit further. So as we're rolling up, pushing the belly button into the floor, but we're going to squeeze our bum cheeks together just to start to peel our tailbone up away from the floor and then back down. So each time we're going up, we're going to go that little bit higher. So breathing out as we're curling up and then in to lower back down. So we're starting to get up towards the middle of our back. As we start to get that little bit higher, we're going to start to feel our knees drifting away from us. And as we're coming back down, we're keeping those bum cheeks squeezed together until we've got mid-back, lower back, and then coming back down through the pelvis. So taking it nice and steady, rolling up. So we're starting to come to the bottom of the shoulder blades, now we're bottom of the rib cage. So quite often with our back we end up moving quite stiffly, we don't get that movement through our joints properly in our spine. So this is just trying to encourage those joints to move against each other. So we're starting to come up now into the shoulder blades. So we're only going to come, so we're resting on the backs of the shoulders. We're not wanting to let the back lift up and arch. So we're just going up so our spine's straight. So we're in a straight line from our knees, hips, and then up to our rib cage. And then lowering back down. So we're going to do a last couple. So we're going to add in our shoulders. So we're going to peel up to the top, hold it there, so squeeze the bum cheeks together. We'll take the arms up and over the top and we're going to hold those arms there, letting them rest above us as we roll back down. So we're getting more of a stretch into our chest. Keep the bum cheeks squeezed together until we come back down, and then we'll bring our arms back by our side. Just move that towel out of the way so you can see a bit better. So we're peeling up to the top, holding it here. We'll take the arms over the top, letting the arms rest and then peeling back down through the spine. All the way back down to the bottom and then arms back by our side. So we'll do 2 more. Rolling up. Pause at the top. Arms bring over the top and then rolling back down. And then arms back by our side. So our last one now. Arms over the top and then peeling back towards the floor. Then we'll bring our arms back by our side. So finally, whilst we're still on the floor, we're going to do a couple of stretches. So we take our right foot up, we're going to hold onto the back of our leg and we're going to point our toes down towards us. So we've got a little bend in the knee, so it means that we get a full stretch down the back of our leg. So try and have the shoulders relaxed. As we're holding it, we're then going to point the toes up and away, so get the stretch going down through the front of the shin, and then we're going to come back down towards us again. And then we're going to draw a big circle with our toes, getting that stretch into all sides of our ankle joint now. And then the other direction. Now we'll bend that knee, taking that foot back onto the floor. We're going to stretch through the other side, so bringing the left leg up. Again, a little bend in the knee, holding through the back of our leg. And we're going to bring those toes down towards us so we feel that stretch all the way down through the calf, past the back of the knee and into the back of our thigh. And then as we're holding it, again, we're going to point the toes away and then back down towards us. And then we're going to circle the ankle all the way around. And then bending that leg, and we'll bring that leg back onto the floor. Okay, so coming into our 4-point kneeling position. So if we bring ourselves up and tuck our knees underneath, we want our knees underneath our hips and our wrists are slightly wider and forward of our shoulders. We're going to bring the shoulders down. Okay, so we're going to come into our 4-point kneeling. So if we bring our knees underneath, okay, so we're going to come into our 4-point kneeling position. So we bring ourselves up, so we're going to tuck our knees underneath, and we're going to have our knees underneath our hips and our wrists slightly wider and forwards of our shoulders. We're going to start with our cat stretch. So we're going to start working from our tailbone, and we're going to curve our spine up towards the ceiling. So we're going to tuck our tailbone underneath, rolling ourselves up, chin into our chest, and we're pushing our palms into the floor so we get an arch through our spine. Then we're going to go the other way, taking our tailbone up, spine's coming down, shoulders are coming down the back, and our heads are lifting up. Try and almost push that chest bone out through the shoulders. And then we're going to take our chin back down to our chest, Turning back up towards the ceiling. Tucking our tailbone underneath again, squeezing those butt cheeks together. And then rolling back the other way. So we're going to get that arch down towards the floor. Let the chest exercise push up through the shoulders as we lift the head up. And then we'll go back up to the top. By pushing those palms into the floor, we widen through the shoulder blades, opening up into our upper back. And then we'll go back down the other way. Now, when we're in a full-point kneeling, if anybody's got sore wrist in this position, you can always make a fist if it's more comfortable. Now, we're going to find a nice flat back. Head's just looking between our fingertips, so our neck's coming out from our spine, and we're not letting our head drop down, we're not looking down at our feet. We're trying to keep a nice neutral position. Shoulder blades coming down our backs, and we're going to draw these tummy muscles on just to try and keep ourselves. If you imagine a centre line down through the mat on top of that line. So, holding ourselves here, so we've got those lower tummy muscles on. We'll take a nice deep breath in. As we breathe out, we're going to slide one leg out behind and gently lifting it up. And then coming back down, and then we can glide back underneath. So imagine you have a tray bouncing across the back of the hips. And we're trying to keep those trays nice and stable. So even as we're changing legs over, we're keeping that control, keeping those muscles on about 20%. We're keeping it nice and steady, keeping ourselves on that centre line. Imagine with our head somebody's holding our hair from a ponytail and just gently drawing it back, lengthening through the back of our neck. So we'll do 4 more, 2 more on each side. Three to go. Last 2. And our final one. And we're back in. We're going to take those hands slightly up the mat, so we're going to bring them together in front of us. And we're going to sit back down onto our heel, into our shell stretch. So we're getting that stretch all the way through our spine, trying to sit back towards our heels. A nice deep breath, so we want to get that breath into our ribcage, stretching out through our upper back. Then we gently push ourselves back up, and we'll bring those hands back underneath our shoulders. So, knees are underneath our hips still, wrists slightly wider forwards of our shoulders. Find your flat back again, shoulders down the back, and this time we're going to work into our arms. So we want to keep those shoulders down away from our ears, so they're not going to come up here. And what we're going to do, we're just going to very gently just take the hands down the mat without the shoulders coming up, and then coming back to where we started, and then onto the other side. So imagine this time we've got trays bouncing across the back of our shoulders. We're not seeing our shoulders wobble. And then if we want to take a little bit further, we're going to slide down, but then gently just lift up away from the floor. So we're not reaching forwards. We're trying to keep that control around our shoulder blades. And same on the other side, so glide down and then just gently try and lift up. So we'll do 4 more, 2 more on each side. And the last one on each side now. and we're back then through to the start. So we're going to do a child pose again, but slightly different. So left hand to left side of the mat, right hand up top. We're going to sit back. I'm going to lean into the middle of the mat. So you're going to feel the stretch coming through the outside of the right shoulder. Still doing that nice deep breath in, really trying to get that opening up into the rib cage. Then we'll push ourselves back up. Right hand to the right side of that, left hand on top. Sitting back down and leaning into the middle, so opening up into that left side now, all the way down the side here. And then we'll push ourselves back up and back through to the front. So we're going to now just go through our thread the needle exercise. So still in start position is still the same. We're going to take a left hand, we're going to thread the left hand underneath, and we're going to try and reach towards that far wall. So you're taking that taking the shoulder down towards the floor, trying to reach through. So you're going to feel the stretch coming from the right hip through to the left shoulder, so diagonally across the back. And then we're going to come back through to start and then changing sides over. So this time I'm taking my right arm, thread it underneath. See if I can lower that left shoulder to the floor. And then coming back through. So I'll do one more on each side. So right hand reaching underneath as I'm holding a nice deep breath in. And breathing back out as I come back through to the start. And then the last one. Deep breath in. And breathing back out. Coming back through here. We're then going to bring ourselves up into standing. So what we're going to do, we're going to tuck our toes underneath our heels, walking our hands backwards, and we can slowly start to bring those knees up, walking ourselves backwards further until we've got our balance on our feet, and we're starting then to go up into a roll up. So you can then start to squeeze the bum cheeks together, and you're going to slowly unfold back up through the ceiling, bringing shoulders back around and heads up nice and tall. Okay, so finally we're just going to go through a little bit of a cool down. So we're going to start with finding our balance again. So we take our weight towards our toes and then coming back towards our heels. Just seeing if you can very gently just lift those toes up. Trying to keep that little bend in the knees. And just rocking our weight backwards and forwards very gently. Then as we get used to that, we can start going a little bit higher, starting to come up towards our toes. Again, just wake the body up nice and slowly. So we're just starting with the legs. So we'll do 3 more. That's 2. And final 1. And then just resting, so we've got even pressure between the front and backs of our feet. Knees are slightly bent, we're just then thinking about our shoulders, so bring the shoulders around, up to our ears and then back down and back again. So breathing in as we're bringing those shoulders up and breathing back out as we're sliding back down. Imagine those shoulder blades just gliding into our back pockets. Do another 2. And the last one. Now we're just going to work one side at a time. So we're going to roll one shoulder and then we're going to continue down to a side stretch and then coming back up. And then onto the other side. So shoulder roll, sliding down and then gently coming back up again. So just imagine you're sliding down between 2 panes of glass. So we're keeping our shoulders square to the front. And then as we're coming back up, imagine zipping up through a middle. So like we roll down, we're slowly working our way back up through those discs, all the way back up to the top. So we'll do one more each way, on each side. Now we're going to add another part in. We're going to take a slightly wider stance. Knees are still nice and soft. So shoulder roll, sliding down to the side. We're going to slowly start to roll those shoulders around to the front and into that ragdoll position where we're then going to curl back up through our spine. Resetting those discs back up and shoulders back around. So onto the other side, shoulder roll. Sliding down, taking that top shoulder, curling around to the front, so we get that stretch through our back and the side, back through to the front, and then rolling back up. Shoulders around and heads up nice and tall. So we'll do one more each way. At the bottom, just feeling that stretch through the backs of our thighs. You can do as big or as small movement you want, depending on how stiff your back is or how much movement you've got. And rolling all the way back up through to the top. Shoulders back around and heads up nice and tall. Now we'll just stretch through the neck to finish off with. So we'll take our chin down to our chest and we're going to roll one ear to our shoulder. Get that stretch coming down the opposite side. And then we're going to roll the chin back down to our chest and through to the side. So each side we're just pausing it slightly and then we're going to roll back through. Going to do one more each way. And our last one. And then we're going to take our chin down to our chest and we'll bring our head back up through the middle, shaking those shoulders out, and we're all ready for the day.